Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by we've had one, we've had two. Now we have the third member of the Indy Boys Podcast on. Of course, I'm talking about Daniel Chaney, the one that hasn't been on here yet. Tristan was on here 2 weeks ago. Justin was on here last week. And now it's Daniel's turn to come on. How's it going, bud?
I feel like you're just collecting us like infinity stones. You just got to get them all. But it's going great. I'm just taking some time, taking a break from classes and stuff. And I'm ready to talk about some racing because I feel like we had a really, really good weekend of racing.
We did. We really did. We'll get to IndyCar in a minute, but let's. I know that F1 was Verstappen basically, and then there were some other storylines as well. Of course, no one. I don't think anyone. Aston Martin. With the story with Fernando Alonso, and then Ferrari, kind of, with Leclerc going out and all that stuff. But it looks like they were on strategy, though. That was good.
Yeah, they looked like they had more of a strategy than they did last season. So take that for what you will.
Does it seem like that Red Bull's going to win all these races? Because it's like, I know George Russell said, I think Red Bull's going to win all these races. I'm like, I don't think that's really kind of far off. I mean, it's like, I don't think Mercedes is quite there yet. And Ferrari. So really the only contender could be, Aston Martin, because I really don't see anybody else that could really challenge. Maybe if McLaren gets their act together. But
that's a hard bargain to push because they weren't looking too great this week.
They weren't. So yeah, I mean, Red Bull could win, but the thing is, they're going to have mechanical issues and stuff. I do think Ferrari's going to get at least a few wins. I do think Mercedes will get a win, and who knows if Aston Martin keeps up their pace, they could get a win.
They're going to be a team to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah,
they were not on my radar at the beginning of the season, but they certainly are now.
Yeah, F2 and F3 were pretty good too. I haven't had a chance to watch them. Just realized I can get the F2 and F3 races on ESPN Plus, and no, I don't.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm not a Sky Glass customer, and I'm not pressing the red button to go back on highlights. So, so it's like, yeah. But overall, I think those two races were good as well, and obviously you're going to discuss those later tonight. I think you guys are going live tonight. So
yeah.
Yeah, so that will be fun for sure. All right, let's talk NASCAR for a minute. We're saving IndyCar for last.
Okay.
So, how did you think that went? Because it was talking with a lot of my NASCAR friends in the group chat that we have. It just seemed like it was. It was people are okay, it was a good race, and then it's like maybe the cloud cover was there, and I mean, maybe there were battles going on in the pack, and maybe, I know TV might not do as justice as if you're sitting at home compared to when you're at the track. But overall, it was a very, very, predictable race as Hendrick Motorsports basically dominated the whole thing.
Yeah, it was very slow paced. And part of that is like, for me, someone who tries to watch as much racing as I can, I went straight from watching IndyCar, fast paced action happening the entire time, to this NASCAR race where it was dominated by 2-3 drivers. You pretty much knew who was going to win the whole time. It was just slow. There were some battles mid-pack, but like it wasn't like this Daytona 500 everybody's fighting for the win race. And so like I think that's just like it's part of the problem. NASCAR is good and it is fun in its own way. It's just so different than IndyCar F1. Because some weeks you're going to have the faster paced races where everybody could really go out there and win. And then other weeks you're going to have races like these where you just pretty much know who's going to win. And that's okay. That happens in every series.
Yeah.
But it's just like it takes away from the fact that it wasn't necessarily a bad race. I still think it was a solid race. But everybody's going to take away the fact that it was boring and be like, because nothing was really happening, that means it's a bad race. And I feel like that's part of the issue with kind of like modern fandom is just like a lot of them will just see something that's like just fine and be like, it didn't blow me away. It's not good.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to take that because I've been seeing the social media like reactions and it's been very mixed and I don't really know how to perceive that.
I don't want to read those comments. Sometimes those are taxing comments to read. So Xfinity was really, really good. But well, the
Mhm.
series is always you always see a show going on over there. I mean, Austin Hill getting passing Chandler Smith on the last lap, that had to be fun. And I see someone, and some of you might have picked up some. I did one. I thought one of you had Austin Hill this weekend. I'm not sure.
Um, I know I didn't pick him. I think I had Josh Berry, but I'm a big Austin Hill supporter. I think he's really good. He's one of my guys that I consistently root for. So I was really excited to see him because normally, like, I feel like people associate him with just super speedways now because he's so good on super speedways that I'm glad he's reminding people that he's good on other tracks too. Because honestly, I think people were forgetting that because some people were very surprised that he won this race, which they shouldn't. I think he's a championship contender, but I don't know.
I see we're already seeing the big three kind of go on there with like Austin Hill, Justin Allgaier, and John Hunter Nemechek. We're not ready to see. I'm, there's still going to be more players in that series. As I said last night on the Encore show, I still think Sammy Smith's going to win a few races. I still think Josh Berry's going to win a few races. Brandon Jones, I think that 9 team's going to get back together. I still think Mayer's going to win a few races this year. That one team has just been really, really performing well. And I think we're going to still see. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Cole Custer. I really don't know. I don't.
I have high hopes and medium expectations
Okay.
just because I don't know if Stuart Haas's Xfinity program was ready to be a 2 series or 2 car team at the moment because I don't like I like Riley Herbst. I think Riley Herbst is good. I think he's overhated. People think he's way worse of a driver than he actually is. He just hasn't got that win to cement that he is good, I guess, in people's eyes. Um, but at the same time, seeing how that team has just kind of been like good enough in the past 2 years with him, I think adding on a second car was going to be a challenge in its own. I think Cole Custer is very talented. I'm a supporter of Cole Custer. I want him to go out there and win pretty much every week if he could, but I don't know what to expect out of Stuart Haas this year. It's a weird situation where I
Yeah.
feel like people were giving it too high of expectations too early simply because he did well in the past. And I don't know what to kind of like what to expect with them, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they're going to. I mean, I would be shocked if Cole Custer doesn't get a win this year.
Mhm.
Also, I think Sammy Smith's going to get some wins this year too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's I mean that 18 team was really fast out of club. But obviously it's his first year, driving in this series. So it's gonna have to take I mean, the Xfinity cars and the ARCA cars do have some similarities. So we'll have to see on there. Plus ARCA is back at Phoenix this weekend. That makes me excited. And Frankie Muniz could get a top 10. I think he could get a top 10 this weekend.
I think he could too. I I don't pay too much attention to every time like ARCA races, but I am intrigued by certain stories that happen with it, and I think Frankie Muniz, you gotta watch him
You should
because
you should
he's.
watch more ARCA.
I'm,
Obviously,
I'm I'm trying to get into it, but I'm just so busy. It's hard to watch everything all the time.
well, but I am the ARCA guy, so kind of.
Mhm.
I mean, not as that's kind of what people know me for. Well, certain people. Yeah. Also, I just realized this before we get to IndyCar, I got to ask you about Chase Elliott. All that. Just, I know that's been the topic of conversation. It's going
Yeah,
next few months or however long he's out of the car. But overall, it just seemed like, the question is, when's he going to be back? And the question that probably should be answered at least by today. I don't know. I've heard a couple things about that, and we're not going to get into that. But
mhm.
overall, what could and also who's going to replace him in the 9 car until he comes back? Because I know that's a big question right
It's a
now.
big question. I I mean, you hate to see any driver have to go out for any reasons, especially injury reasons, because you just never know what to expect with them. Um, like I wouldn't say that I'm the world's biggest Chase Elliott fan ever, but he's a talented driver, and you hate to see him go out. I hope he makes a speedy recovery. I hope to see him in a car soon because he's really talented. and I love seeing what he can do. But then it comes to the whole replacement thing. I'm intrigued to see what they do because I don't know if they want to have one guy in it the whole time or if they want to kind of like split it between a few drivers, have people get some seat experience kind of if they're free. I would love to see Josh Berry keep running it if that's the decision. I know people were very underwhelmed with how he performed this weekend, but honestly, if it's your first time in a Gen 7 Cup car, you're not gonna go out and get a top five. And I feel like people were, oh, he's a Hendrick car, he's gonna get top five. And then he didn't, and then everyone was like, oh, he's a bust. No, that's just not how that works. And so I'm intrigued to see if they keep on with him, have him get more experience. So maybe like in the future he could run, probably not with Hendrick immediately because they're pretty set for a while. But maybe he goes to kind of a smaller Chevy team. I would like to see Sam Mayer get some running in the Gen 7 car. I'd like to see someone like Corey LaJoy, if that's able to be worked out. Again, I don't know how the contracts work in NASCAR for kind of weird mid-season flips like that. But I'd love to see someone like Corey LaJoy, who fans kind of know as this journeyman driver who hasn't really gotten a chance at a top tier team. I would love to see what he could do in a top tier team, especially given the fact that depending on how long Chase Elliott is out, we could see him being out during a Talladega or an Atlanta super speedway race, which Corey LaJoy is very good at in very underwhelming cars. So putting him in a top team car in a race like that, where even in a lower team car, he has chances to win, I am very intrigued to see what could happen with that.
Okay. So going in, all right, let's talk about IndyCar for a minute here. Well, actually, for the rest of the show, I ask you. I mean, I don't know what I just watched on Sunday. That was probably I was that you because people say that was a really good race or that was a terrible race. But overall, I thought it was good. But
I think it was really good.
Yeah,
I'm very biased towards IndyCar, so that might be part of the issue. But I don't think this was necessarily a Nashville type race that everybody is trying to put it as, because racing actually happened.
yeah, there was some and I know you're going to talk about this later today, but um going into this weekend and going from this past weekend, what were some of the biggest takeaways that you had?
My biggest takeaway, Andretti looks scary. And I think the Penske's, the Chip Ganassi racings, they need to take notes on how to stop them. I know that like the standings at the end of that race don't show it, but holy crap, did Andretti look good all weekend.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying if you're a top team, because over the past 2-3 seasons, we've kind of seen the downfall of Andretti, especially last year at Mid Ohio, where it seemed like the entire team had pretty much imploded.
Yeah.
I think that Andretti is going to be really good this year if they can actually have good luck for once. I think Andretti could, hot take, I think an Andretti car could contend for the championship. Will they win? I don't know. That's hard to say. But I think if luck goes their way, Andretti could be very dominant.
Okay. I'll take that one step further then. Who do you think contends for the championship for Andretti?
Ooh. So I'm a Colton Herta fan,
Okay.
but I know as a Colton Herta fan that he's very hit or miss pretty much every week. And I believe Jay had him as his preseason championship pick, which I did last year, and I regretted that at about 2 weeks in. I'm not going to say Colton Herta will be the one to get done. My hot take, and in our preseason predictions, I put him 7th in the standings just because I didn't know how good Andretti was going to be.
Okay.
But if any driver in Andretti is going to do it, I think it's Kyle Kirkwood.
I
think Kyle Kirkwood could have an Alex Palou type season.
You know what? I've actually heard that from a lot of. I mean, I think we all know how good Kyle Kirkwood is, and I think it's fair to say that he was quick at St. Pete, and obviously had some things happen to him, but but yeah, I think it just seems to feel at home with that 27 team. So this is obviously it's like a return home. Got a chance to talk with him before the season.
Mm.
So and we saw glimpses of his talent when he was at Foyt last year, and then of course coming over here. And I really think that I think he wins a couple races this year. I really do.
I genuinely think if the cards fall in the right places, I think Kyle Kirkwood could be contending for the championship. And maybe that's just me having a hot take that is probably going to be wrong.
No,
But I seriously, I hope it happens because I genuinely think we need to put some respect on Kyle Kirkwood's name because I saw over this past offseason, so many people were saying, oh, Kyle Kirkwood's an Andretti. He's not good. He was in the AJ Foyt 14 car. It is hard for anybody to make that car look good. It's nothing against the team, it's nothing against the drivers that put in it. They have been like the F1 in F1 terms, they have been the Williams of IndyCar. It doesn't matter who you put in the car, it's hard to make it look good. I mean, Sebastian Bourdais had a hard time making that car look good. And Sebastian Bourdais is a phenomenal driver. People have already been marking down Kyle Kirkwood as a bust, and I really hope he goes out there and wins 3 to 4 races, puts that car in championship contention, just to make people remember that Kyle Kirkwood has won a championship in every series he's ever been in, and I think that continues at some point in his IndyCar career. Will it be this season? I don't know, but I have said that him and David Malukas both will be future IndyCar champions, and that's a hill I'm willing to die on.
yeah, yeah, and obviously David got a top 10, so that was good. How about Hunkos? How about
Juncos looked really good, at least for how they have been in the past, and that's really intriguing to me.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and I think we're gonna be finding out a little bit about that run tomorrow because might as well just announce it on here. Callum Ilot's coming on the channel tomorrow, so that's good. And also, there's a certain NASCAR driver that'll be on too. um, you'll I won't say that yet, but yeah, I think I think that the Juncos team really has that team is really impressed this year. And I mean, even Augustin in his first IndyCar race comes home and finishes 12th, survives all the carnage and all that stuff. It was good to see him have a good run, but it's just like I feel like there's a lot of teams that a lot of teams had bad days, like Andretti, Meyer Shank. Of course, both those cars got taken out in that early wreck. The Foyt cars got taken out in that early wreck. So it'll be interesting to see how a lot of these guys do when they go to Texas in a few weeks. So should be interesting there. By the way, did you like? But overall, let me ask you this. I know we talked about the championship a little bit, and yes, Marcus Ericsson won the race. Do you think that Marcus Ericsson is, because everyone talks about like, is someone going to break that hold on the Penske Ganassi stronghold of the championship that we've had? No one's won it since Captain America when Ryan Hunter-Reay did it help with Andretti. Do we see someone? Do we see a new team like Andretti, or do we see like the Arrow McLaren team go out there? I mean, because Pato was fast too.
I think it's very possible, but the beauty of IndyCar is that you truly never know who's going to be the champion till that last race. And I could absolutely see someone like Pato rolling away with the championship at the end of the season. I could see someone from Andretti, like a Colton Herta, maybe even a Romain Grosjean or a Kyle Kirkwood, as we've already talked about, taking that championship. But the fact that there's 4 teams that are in that conversation and each of them have at least 3 drivers, that's at least 12 to 13 drivers that could go out there and win the championship. And that's the beauty of it. But I find it so hard, so incredibly hard to bet against Penske or Ganassi, especially like you can never count out Scott Dixon. You can never count out someone like a Joseph Newgarden or a Will Power. And then they've got the young guns. You've got an Alex Palou who's already won a championship in his 2nd season ever in IndyCar. You've got Scott McLaughlin, who is clearly on an up and up. He's going up. He's doing even better than he has done. I think progression isn't always linear for drivers, but I think Scott McLaughlin is one of those drivers that you can see the linear progression keep on going. Scott McLaughlin is my preseason pick for the championship. I still think he very much could go out there and do it. It's just so hard to predict. It's so hard to predict. And that's why I love IndyCar, because you just never know who's going to go out and win every race. You don't know who's going to win the championship till that last race, when there's potentially 5 drivers all going for it in the last race, which is insane, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Did you like Indy Next, by the way?
Yes, so I wasn't able to watch it, but I kept up with social media.
It was entertaining, that's for sure. A lot of different things were happening in that race. Daniel Frost ended up winning that. Congrats to him. And Nolan Siegel with a good run. Jacob Abel with a good run too in P3.
Yeah.
On the podium. So that's good there. Rasmussen got a good run in P4. Of course, he's with HMD this year. And then leading the Andretti Brigade in Indy Next was Hunter McElroy in 5th. So yeah, that was good stuff there. And congrats to to Christian Brooks and Loki Hughes, and I'm trying to forget who else. Nikita Johnson and Miles Rowe for winning the USF Pro 2000 races, and as well as USF 2000 respectively. So pretty good weekend out in St. Pete. And I know the MX5 Cup was out there, and SRO America was out there. So that was good stuff there. All right. Well, Daniel, I know I gotta get going. So I will. Well, thanks so much for coming on, and it'll be a fun episode tonight on the.
Yeah, no problem. Hope to talk to you soon.